Good morning, everyone. I'm Suresh Thiru, and I lead the platform PM team. I'm joined with Filippo in my team, and he leads all of compliance and Gov Clouds. Once again, thanks for joining us. You might have seen this slide many times by now. We'll be discussing a few roadmap items that are subject to change. After the session, please do take the survey and provide your feedback. If you have any enhancement requirements or challenges that you face with networking and security, please do share the details and also reach out to us. In conversations with many of you and other customers, one important needs come up consistently. How do we, as customers, adopt Gen AI and serverless that handle sensitive data like PII, PHI, or HR records while staying compliant and minimizing exposure risk? You want the power of Gen AI and serverless, but with the confidence that your data, users, and workspaces remain isolated, encrypted, and auditable. In this session, we'll talk about how the platform enables exactly that. By the end of the session, you will have a clear understanding of how the platform provides end-to-end private connectivity from users and apps to the Databricks platform and from the Databricks platform to any data source. Second, how the platform prevents data exfiltration by blocking outbound connections to unauthorized destinations. And third, restricts data access to only authorized workspaces, so other workspaces cannot access your data. And finally, Databricks offers many compliance standards, and we'll go over how you can enable them with a single toggle. Now, you might wonder, why did these foundational capabilities matter? Because to unlock the power of AI and serverless potential, you need a platform that is not only powerful, but also secure and easy to adopt. And we'll talk about platform native capabilities to secure your environment. If you're not familiar with the Databricks architecture, the platform decouples with a control plane and a data plane. The control plane is where we are handling things like authentication, authorization, logging, monitoring, cluster management, job scheduler, and many other functions. In the data plane is where your data is being processed, like running SQL queries, jobs, notebooks, Databricks apps, machine learning workloads, and many more. In the classic data plane, compute runs in your cloud account. In the case of serverless, we manage compute and makes it much more efficient. Now, we'll talk about how you can leverage these capabilities to get the most out of the platform and protect your environment. These are the 4 steps that you need to take in order to leverage the platform native security and compliance capabilities. First, ensure trusted access. By validating users and applications access the Databricks platform from authorized locations with strong authentication. Second, prevent data exfiltration. As I mentioned earlier, you configure the platform capabilities to block outbound connections to unauthorized destination, whether that is cloud storage or any external system. And third, restricts data access to only your workspaces. If you have multiple workspaces, you may want to provide data access to only specific workspace. We'll show you how you can make that happen. And finally, enable compliance. We support so many compliance standards, and you can enable them with a single toggle in order to meet all of your compliance requirements. Taken together, all of these capabilities help you to create a guardrail so that you can run fast and stay secure. Let's go over each step with the corresponding capabilities that we offer in the platform. We'll start off with ensure trusted access. The Databricks platform prevents unauthorized access with capabilities like multi-factor passwordless, IP-ACL, context-based access control, and private link. Starting with multi-factor authentication, passwordless authentication. The platform natively supports multi-factor passwordless authentication and deep integration with your identity provider. The most secure option to access Databricks platform is using single sign-on with unified login. If you are not familiar with the unified logging, we introduced that feature recently to streamline the SSO configuration across all your workspaces in a given account. So once you configure the SSO at that account level, that configuration is applied across all workspaces. It also enables collaboration using Genie or AI BI dashboards to all your users and minimizes and reduces all the frictions with login. You can also ensure access to the platform during SSO outages because we provide emergency access. For some reason you have not implemented SSO, or if SSO is not in place, the next best option to access the platform is through Databricks managed multi-factor authentication. We strongly recommend you to enable MFA for protecting all your users and data. If you're not familiar with the MFA, it's a multi-factor authentication. It requires more than one factor. The first factor is password, then you need another factor like security key or OTP as the second factor. We talked about login, strong authentication. And the next step is ensuring access coming from authorized locations. And the way you can do that is with IP-ACL. Today we support IP-ACL. And now we are introducing context-based ingress, which takes it to the next level. Now you not only filter access based on IP address, but also based on identity. So the combination of IP address and identity gives you precise control of who can access from where and to what APIs within the platform. And finally, you can keep the traffic all private using private link. We do support front-end private link between user and apps and the Databricks platform. The platform is also flexible to support any connections over the internet using your corporate IP addresses. So the platform has the flexibility to support both private and connection over the internet, and you can decide which one to choose. Most enterprises go with private link. Now, I talked about the ingress control. Let me explain some of the use cases that we see and how it is applicable for you. A few years ago, we just started with the notebooks, data engineering products. Now, if you look at Databricks, we support so many products and continue to support more and more products. Databricks apps that we made it generally available, model serving endpoints, vector search, and many more are going to come. So in a single workspace, you have multiple products. Next, your Databricks environment also grows with other external services. Basically, you're exposing the Databricks platform as part of the integration with the external services like Salesforce and other platforms. Now, how do you restrict access in this scenario? Most enterprises provide access to the Databricks platform for all their users from their corporate network. And that's why you see NATed IP, which is a IP range that you get from service providers, and that's how you access the platform. And you access all the workspaces, which means all the endpoints for all the users. Now, if a credential is stolen, that credential cannot be accessed. Using that credential, one cannot access the Databricks platform from the internet, right? And that's what helps you with the IP ACL filtering. Then the next question is, you want to integrate with the Salesforce, right? For example, you want to integrate Salesforce with model serving endpoint in the Databricks platform. And if you think about Salesforce, they provide fixed IP egress, which means that fixed egress IPs shared across all tenants. If your credential is compromised for some reason, any Salesforce tenant can access your workspace, right? How do we prevent that, right? The second scenario is SaaS BI tools like Power BI, right, which does not have fixed egress IPs, and they provide dynamic IPs. In this case, you cannot even use IP ACL. If you have to provide access from Power BI to the Databricks platform, you pretty much open access from anywhere, right? IP ACL is not applicable at all. Now, your requirement is ensuring Power BI access only SQL endpoint and nothing else, right? Through this access path, you don't want to expose notebooks, queries, jobs, model serving endpoints, right? You want to restrict Power BI talking to SQL endpoints only. So how do you do that, right? And that's where the context-based ingress comes into play. And finally, you have admins, right? If you are admins, you want to make sure that you provide access to admin APIs from highly trusted networks, right? From corporate VPN or dedicated subnet, right? All of these use cases or requirements is what we heard from many of you. Now, that's why we are introducing context-based ingress control, which is currently in private preview on all three clouds. With context-based ingress control, you can accomplish whatever I described in the previous slide, all the use cases that I mentioned. So let me walk you through the details. So if you look at the diagram, you have source, which means users or applications accessing the Databricks platform. And then we talked about the Databricks platform has got multiple endpoints, right? Multiple products, model serving endpoints, apps, SQL, admin APIs, right? And many more. Now you want to create an ingress rule and provide access only to what is absolutely needed, so that you can implement the principle of least privilege by default. So the way the ingress control works is sorted by three components. Source-based filtering first. So you define the source. The source could be IP address range, identity, or the combination of the two. If you define the rule combining IP address ranges and identities, both conditions have to be met in order for the platform to grant access. And the next step is to define what that source can access. And here, with the targeted API scope, you can specify exactly what is the API endpoint that source can access. Okay? So now you have who, from where, can access what, right? So you have this complete rules you can define with context-based ingress. We also support multi-rule policies. What does that mean? You can create complex ingress, allow and deny list or rules within a single policy. For example, you may want to provide access to the Databricks platform from certain IP address range. For other endpoints, you may need both IP address ranges and identity, right? So that is the kind of policy you can define with context-based ingress control. This feature is currently in private preview, If any of you are interested, please reach out to us. We can enable it for you so that you can play with it and give us feedback on how we can continue to improve. If it doesn't satisfy any of your requirements, please do let us know. So this demo time, let me show you how the context-based ingress actually works. In this case, let's assume that you as a customer has two requirements. First, provide access to the Databricks platform from corporate network only for all users and identities, including service principals. Second, provide access to SQL endpoint only from SaaS BI for all users or group of users. Let's assume that's your requirements, and then we can go through the demo. So, if you go back. Anyway, I can explain. So you go to the network policy from the cloud resources, and you define the ingress rule. As you can see, we talked about the source-based filtering. You provide your network source, which could be your corporate IP address range, and then you select. In this case, we selected all workspaces, all workspace UI API, right? Because users are coming from the corporate network and you're trusting them. Then I'm creating a second row. In this case, I selected all users, but you can also select a group. Again, you provide the network source, what you want, and where it comes from, where these users are coming from, and then you define the destination filter. In this case, we are giving access to these users only to the SQL endpoint and nothing else. Through this access path, those users cannot access any other endpoints. They can't access model serving, they can't access Databricks apps or admin APIs. So now once you define these rules, you want to apply these rules on selected or all workspaces. So again, you go to the workspace, you click the network policy, and then you select the rules that you defined. It's done. You can apply these rules across many workspaces. In this example, I have applied these rules in 2 workspaces, dev and stage. So now we have covered ensured trusted access, which basically validating users and applications accessing the platform with the strong authentication, access control, and ensuring that traffic goes over the private link. Go ahead. Next, I'm going to cover about prevent data exfiltration, how you can control outbound connections. So far, we discussed what can enter to the Databricks platform. Obviously, the other side of the equation is about what can leave the platform, right? And you want to have precise control over where your data can go. So before I go into the details, we see 2 scenarios in which data can be exfiltrated, whether accidentally or maliciously, right? So let me walk you through the 2 scenarios. You have a compromised workload, and that compromised workload can reach unapproved cloud storage, either accidentally or maliciously, right? This might involve interactive users or automated workloads pulling in and executing untrusted internet hosted libraries. That's one way the compromised workload can reach unauthorized storage destination. The second scenario is the risk of your workspace accessing another workspace which may have path to internet. Basically, let's say your workspace, you completely blocked internet access, but the second workspace has got full internet access. If you allow your workspace to talk to the workspace API of the second interface, which has got the internet access, one can exfiltrate the data through the second interface, second workspace, through the workspace APIs. So obviously, you want to prevent cross workspace interactions. So let me walk you through what are the capabilities that we are providing in the platform to prevent data exfiltration for both use cases that I mentioned. The platform supports two capabilities: Unity Catalog with external locations. Basically, your admin can govern access to cloud storage in a central and policy, in a centralized policy. So with that policy, once they define where your workloads or users can access cloud storage, data cannot be exfiltrated through unapproved storage path. Even if users try to access private storage bucket or any other unapproved storage destination, UC will block that. UC and serverless egress control will block that automatically. That way, you're reducing data exfiltration. The second feature that we introduced for serverless environment is serverless egress control. With serverless egress control, you can control where your data can leave. Pretty much, blocking all outbound connections and allowing only to sanctioned resources and nothing else. And that's what serverless egress control supports, which was in private preview. Yesterday, we made it generally available on AWS and Azure. If you have been using serverless egress control and you have some feedback, please reach out to us. Love to learn more about any additional requirements you may have. So in this example, in this diagram, I'm showing you, all of these products can access sanctions storage, but not to the personal storage. And that can be done through UC governed storage path with external locations and also with egress control. Once you define the UC external locations, those locations are automatically included in the serverless egress control rules. So how does this serverless egress control work? Basically, in a single policy, you are covering the outbound connections for 3 surface areas. First, as I mentioned, UC locations. You define the location, external locations in UC, and those locations are automatically included in serverless egress control. On top of that, you can enumerate other storage paths. For instance, you may want your workload to access private repo or specific public repo, and those paths that you want to include in the serverless egress control rules. Second, you may want your environment access Salesforce or other external systems. You have to include specific internet domains in the egress rules. That's how Databricks platform can allow you to access external systems. And finally, we talked about cross workspace interaction. By default, serverless egress controls blocks all cross workspace interactions. If you have any use case that require cross workspace interaction, please let us know. The main reason we are blocking by default is to prevent, as I mentioned earlier, workspace A is talking to workspace E and exfiltrate data through workspace B, assuming that workspace B has got full internet access or access to unsanctioned storage destination. So if you haven't played with the serverless egress control policy, let me walk you through. It's a single policy that you define at the account level and then apply across workspaces. For instance, you can create a default policy. The default policy is basically blocking all internet access for all new workspaces. And then you can say, okay, I want to allow access to specific storage path or storage destination or external system. Then you select restricted access to specific destination, then you list out allowed domains as well as storage destination. Again, you do not have to specifically add UC external location in egress control. We automatically take all those UC external locations and include them in the serverless egress control to simplify the management. Okay. So, I talked about serverless egress control, what are the use cases. Let me quickly walk through some of the use cases you can achieve with serverless egress control. First, you can start off with the zero internet access. No one gets access other than your users and workload access cloud storage paths, which are defined in UC external locations. That is it, right? Many customers do that. Then you may have a requirement to access specific private repo in a VPC or VNet. Then you open up access only to those private repo. Then third, you may want to connect to external system. That is when you open up access to specific domain, right? Salesforce domain or any other domains that you want to have access. So, you can achieve all these use cases with serverless egress control. Basically, with ingress control and egress control, you are creating a perimeter with full control at the edge, helping you enforce the principle of least privilege by default. So, let me quickly go through another scenario, right? We talked about the perimeter boundary that you can establish. What if your administrator, storage administrator can access data directly? Right now, you are exposing your data to infrastructure administrators, and how do you prevent this, right, from happening? This is why we introduced multi-key protection, so you can own your encryption and protect against insider threats. So, in this example, what I am showing is all data in the Databricks platform is encrypted at rest by default. With your key, customer managed key, you own encryption root, encryption key root, not us. Your key pretty much protects everything in the Databricks platform, your data set, code, models, everything that you own in the Databricks platform using your key. Then what we have done, we created a key per catalog using the combination of customer managed key and Databricks managed key. On top of that, we also have key per object, model, table key, volume key, and that is encrypted with the catalog key. And then finally, we create ephemeral file key per data file and then encrypt that with the object key. File key is ephemeral and stored in memory on trusted compute, not persisted to disk, right? So, that way, if you ever have to revoke access to the Databricks platform, you own the key and you can revoke it. No Databricks process or insider, Databricks internal users or anyone can access your data. We are supporting this capability for default storage. What I mean by that is Databricks managed storage. And if you want us to extend to your own storage to protect against insider threats, please let us know. We have been thinking about how we can extend this capability for bring your own storage or customer managed storage. Okay. How does this help you? As I mentioned, this provides defense in depth, right? Using multi-key protection, basically all access to your data must come through the front door, right? Nobody can access your data directly, right? Even if they access data, any data, right, they can't get anything out of it, right? Because it's all encrypted. And the way this works is a user must have access to workspace, right? Without that, they can't even, log in. On top of that, we talked about strong authentication and access control. That means users have to come from authorized location before they can access the workspace and log into the workspace. Second, your workspace must have access to the catalog. If you are not binding the catalog to the workspace, that workspace cannot access your data. Second, third, user must have authorization to access schema tables, right? And finally, the code must run on the trusted network, and also only the trusted code has access to the encryption, right? So if you bring your own code, that code cannot even decrypt the data. So all the encryption key is made available only to the trusted code, right? And that's how we protect end-to-end, and even if your storage administrator got direct access to the cloud storage, they can't decrypt the data. Okay. So I have to go fast. Restrict data access, basically, how do you give access? Only to authorized workspaces. You can achieve this with 2 ways. One, using private link or stable identifier. Basically, Databricks exposes workspace IP address, stable IP address that you can configure in the cloud storage firewall, or endpoint policies, right, if you are using AWS. Second, you can establish a private connectivity from the production workspace to each resource, cloud resource, right? And that way, your dev workspace cannot access your production data, and only your production workspace can access that data, either through the stable identifier or through private link. So with that, I'm going to give it to Filippo so that he can cover compliance, and then if we have time, we can walk you through the demo. Okay?
All right, folks, so we are 6 minutes to the end. So I was supposed to give this presentation in 12, so buckle up because they're going to speed up a little bit. So let's talk about compliance. So Suresh has walked you through how to secure your network, how to secure your workspace, your Databricks data, and so on and so forth. So a lot of you might also have to deal with an additional step, which is compliance. So if you are processing regulated data, think of FedRAMP, PCI, HIPAA, you name it. So let's see how, what we do to help you also on this side. So at Databricks, we are trying to make the compliance experience as simple as possible for you. And with compliance experience, I mean really how you set up your Databricks environment to support your compliance needs. So for that, let me get your focus on one of the features here, which is the most relevant, is the compliance security profile. The compliance security profile is a security baseline that you apply to your workloads, to your workspaces, and basically brings you a lot of the security features that are necessary to meet the applicable compliance controls. Think of like data in transit encryption, data rest encryption, FIPS encryption if you are under one of the FIPS standards, and so on and so forth. And hold on, clicking.
Oh,
there
you
you
have
go.
access.
So, and enabling the compliance security profile is as simple as flipping a toggle. You go on the account console, under security and compliance, you can do this either at the workspace level, so in individual workspaces, or you can set, think of like a default policy so that all the new workspaces are gonna do this. And you just have to flip a toggle, you select the applicable compliance standard or standards that you need, and we apply in the back everything that needs to be done, all the applicable controls that needs to be applied, okay? One caveat here, don't over-select, because we are blocking features that are not compliant. So if you select all of them, you're gonna get the most restrictive set. So only select what you need, because we are actively blocking features that have not gone through compliance certifications yet, okay? So this is the most important slide, so focus on this one. What are we doing this year for the compliance space? So we're bringing serverless everywhere. What everywhere means all clouds, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, AWS GovCloud, on all regions for all standards. We're doing the same also for model serving and all the Mosaic AI features. And then we're bringing the enhanced security and compliance add-on, which is the add-on under which the compliance security profile is made available. We're bringing to all clouds, specifically the one that was the big missing one was Google Cloud. And lastly, but not least, we are bringing more and more compliance standards across all clouds. So let me walk you through all these steps. So for those of you who have been with us on the serverless journey and the compliance journey, you know it's been a little tedious. So we initially only had, starting back in 2023, we had serverless for only a couple of our compliance standards on only 2 regions globally. So that if you were, for example, in Europe or in Asia, outside of, in Asia, any Asia region, you were out of luck. You could not use serverless because we did not have serverless support for compliance to those regions. Moving to 2024, we brought serverless to Azure as well with HIPAA in all regions. We brought it to GCP for HIPAA in all regions, and we expanded more region on AWS, but we are still not there. I mean, we are still not done. This year, 2025, we expanded serverless DBR. DBR stands for basically general compute, jobs, notebooks, and Delta Live Table, all serverless. So we brought the HIPAA support for those on GCP. And I get the attention on the red box. That's what we're going to focus on this year. We're bringing basically serverless SQL and serverless DBR on Azure for all standards, on all region. AWS Google Cloud, we are about to launch the private preview of SQL Serverless on AWS Google Cloud. It should open up in the next couple of weeks. And then we're going to bring the rest of the serverless DBR in the next couple of months. And in AWS, all region, all standards by Q4. Remember, our Q4, give or take, our Q4 goes from November to January 2026. Now, going in the calendar year 2026, we're also going to bring serverless SQL and DBR for PCI in all region on GCP, which is part of one of the announcements we do today. I'm spoiled the bean a little bit for a few slides later. This month we are waiting any day at this point to get the PCI certification for GCP classic architecture. So once we have that, we're going to expand that certification also for serverless, and that's why you're seeing 2026 as a timeline, because we just need to get the product certified. Going to model serving and OpenAI, I know there is a lot of people in this room. I recognize a few faces. They're waiting for these, especially on the Gov Cloud side. But starting from Azure and AWS in Q2, so now Q2 for us ends in July. We are bringing Model Serving AI Gateway for all standards and all region on AWS and Azure Commercial. We're also starting to bring model serving, some of the feature model serving to AWS Gov Cloud in Q3, and we plan to complete this in Q4. So by January next year, we plan to be done with all the model serving features. Following that, we're also going to have vector search. I'm not going to read all of these, but just mind map. Q2 for us ends in July, Q3 ends in October, Q4 ends in January, okay? So that you know when it's coming. But basically what you're seeing here, more and more momentum building. You get all serverless, you get the model serving, you get vector search. And once we have these few components, and this is really what I would like you to take away. So serverless, especially DLT, SQL, model serving, and vector search are sort of the building blocks of all the other Gen AI or Mosaic AI features. So this year we have been really working hard to build these building blocks on all this environment, on all region for all standards. So we expect, and you can expect, that once we have this building block done, all the other Gen AI feature will start to roll down much faster, and so we expect to speed up the delivery of them, okay? Let's go to the third step, and enhanced security and compliance add-on available to all customers. So it was a little bit of a whack-a-mole kind of game with the ESC, because, for example, on AWS commercial, we only had it available for commit customer, those that will sign a contract. All the pay-go customer were not allowed to process any regulated data. We are removing that block in the next couple of weeks. And we're also changing, I'm sure for our AWS customer, this is good news. We are changing the pricing model of ESC. We are going to workspace level upcharge instead of contract level upcharge. So you're only going to pay the upcharge for the enhanced security and compliance add-on for those workspaces where you actually use the features. It also means, again, that you don't need to update your order form. Even if you're a commit customer, you don't need to update your order form. You can just start using it whenever you want. We are building, actually, as of yesterday, we published a blog. We announced a public preview of the ESC add-on on GCP. It's going to be available, or it's already available for HIPAA. As soon as we get PCI report back, again, it should happen any day this month. We're also going to extend it to offer PCI. And then AWS Gov Cloud, we are basically going to make available not just enhance the ESC add-on, but the entire AWS Gov Cloud available for pay-go customer via Marketplace. Azure, in this case, wins the cake because they have done already all the work. So it's available for commit, it's available for pay-go. It already has the new pricing model. So no big news there because we already done all the work there. And now let's go to the more compliance offering. So AWS, we recently announced a few new standards like the Kernel Protected B, and we are bringing a few more standards this year. We are working on 2 standards for our German customers, C5 and TSAX. We're working on a new standard for our Japanese customers with ISMAP. AWS Google Cloud, a couple of months ago, we got the IL5 FedRAMP High ATO and the DoD IL5 ATO. And so with that, we are done for now on AWS Google Cloud in terms of certification because we have a fairly strong portfolio there. On Azure, we are bringing a lot of new standards. Again, ISMAP, C5 and TSAX, and FedRAMP High. We plan to expand our availability to FedRAMP High to more customers towards the end of the year, early next year. Google Cloud, we are doing a lot of work there, as you can see, because we only had HIPAA. We are about to launch PCI. We are bringing C5, IRAP for Australian government, UK Cyber Essential Plus, ECCCC for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So a lot of momentum building also on the compliance side for GCP. And lastly, one announcement I want to do is we actually just launched also the enterprise tier on GCP. And why is this related? Because the enterprise tier, you get all the security features that Suresh talked about it. They are going to be available on the enterprise tier. And the enhanced security and compliance add-on is also going to be available on the enterprise tier. So a lot of the features coming up, public preview soon or already in public review. So that's another big point. And to wrap it up, today we walk you through how to harden your Databricks environment, how to ensure that you have the right trusted access, that you prevent data exfiltration, that you restrict data access, and how you deal with compliance in the context of Databricks, and how you support your compliance journey by applying all the necessary controls to your environment. And with this, call to action. If you want to, obviously there is the survey to do. A lot more things you can learn about our security, our trust center, our compliance offering, security offering, you name it. And I think at this point, if you have any question, we are happy to take them.